Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2 are some of the best video games ever made, period. Reviewing them on the Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2 is somewhat of a monumental task because these games were my childhood. I am inherently biased towards these games and I love both of them so much. If you've seen my 3D Mario rankings video in the past, you will know just how much I think of these games, especially Super Mario Galaxy 2. But I will admit, it had been a long time since I was able to go through Super Mario Galaxy 2. I had it on my Wii U from the Virtual Console and from the Wii days, but I have not played it in a standard format in a long time because there was no other way to play Galaxy 2 other than emulating, and I don't emulate games. So having it on my Switch 2, is an incredible thing. Back in September, when they decided to start the Direct off with Mario's 40th anniversary, they showed us a bunch of different Mario games. They showed us Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, they showed us Mario Tennis Fever, and then they showed us Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 alongside of the Super Mario Galaxy movie. There is a big conversation happening right now on whether or not there is a potential Mario Galaxy 3 coming, or if they will just stick with these older games, get the movie out there, and then move on to the next thing. But right now, we have Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 on our Nintendo Switches for $70. Is it worth $70? And also, is it worth $40 per package? Because you can buy Galaxy 1 or Galaxy 2 all on their own for $40. And I think that has been overlooked by a lot of people as well. 70 has just been the number that people have looked at and have hated on this game and these games for, and it's all in one package. So do these games truly justify that price point? Are these games amazing to begin with, or are we all nostalgia blinded? Well, first of all, let's start with Mario Galaxy 1. My playthrough of Mario Galaxy 1 is no different than any other playthrough I have had before. I played Mario Galaxy much more recently than Galaxy 2, and I knew a lot more about what to expect because we got Mario Galaxy in the 3D All-Stars package back in 2020 with the 35th anniversary, in which that package had Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy. Those three games were finally put on modern consoles in a new way, in a package, all combining the three of them and updating those graphics for the celebrating anniversary. These games are amazing and Galaxy is no different, but I think Galaxy is probably the best of those three and is one of my favorites of all time. Galaxy is incredible. It has atmosphere unlike any game I have ever played before. You are in space. Mario is in space. And of course, you will always have those fun vibes that Mario will bring, but this game is different. It's a bit darker. And of course, Mario is never going to go completely dark, and I don't know if anyone truly wants him to go completely dark. That's what fan games are for, if Nintendo will not take those down. But still, Mario has always been vibey. He's always been really fun. This game shows off Rosalina and her story with the storybook, and the storybook is a big emphasis in this game and these games. Rosalina's story is tragic. She lost her mother. Her mother is dead, and she is talking about her under this tree that she always remembers, but the tree is no ordinary tree. The tree is where they buried her mother. And of course, this is a darker story. This is more of a touching story than any Mario game has ever dared to tell. Rosalina and her background is one of the best things about this game. And of course, it was almost not even put in this game because Koizumi, he put that in this game, and he did not tell Miyamoto because he knew Miyamoto didn't want it to be in this game. Miyamoto is not a big fan of story. No matter what he will say, no matter how many quotes he will say to backtrack it, no matter how many movies he makes that are really focused on storytelling, he has never been a fan of stories. Now, maybe he has genuinely changed in his ways on that, but at least in one point, especially back in the Wii era into the 3DS and Wii U era, he did not care about story. Sticker Star was a big point of emphasis here. Paper Mario is a RPG franchise that has a storytelling genre. It has a storytelling focus in all of these other games, and Sticker Star told the most basic of basic stories, eliminated all original characters, and Mario was really not the same ever since then. But the Switch generation and now the Switch 2 generation is changing things a little bit, especially with their release of the physical storybook coming soon. We are getting a physical storybook with all of these stories in it at once. And it is so incredible to see Nintendo and Miyamoto kind of backtrack on the inferior position, in my opinion, of putting all gameplay ahead of all story no matter what, rather than combining the two for an amazing experience. That is one of the reasons I love Donkey Kong Banana bonanza so much. It has that incredible gameplay that we've come to expect from a Nintendo game, a first-party Nintendo 3D platformer no less, but it also has a story worth telling. It has a story that makes me care about Pauline, it makes me care about Donkey Kong even, and I love that game for it. This game does the same thing. Its atmosphere, its vibes are completely and totally different. Space is alone, it's dark, and it is moody, and this really does encapsulate that. Now, yes, you will collect a star and that big bombastic music will play and you'll feel happy about it, but still, it is different. It is not just your average Mario game. The platforming in this game is a whole other thing that I have yet to talk about. In both games, they feel a little bit stiff. I'm not gonna lie to you. Mario feels as stiff as he has ever felt in this game. It's not very open to movement, this game is. All of a sudden, you go from Mario Sunshine, in which you have the Flood Pack and you can do all these different maneuvers, and then they kind of limit Mario's moveset here in Mario Galaxy. And of course, limitations in video games can be a very good thing in my opinion. I actually do think that a lot of the times, if you limit yourself, if you say, okay, this character cannot do everything, because if he could do everything, there wouldn't be a challenge. To have any sort of challenge, to have any sort of fun in a video game, you have to have some sort of limitations. So what did they do? They looked at Mario 64, they looked at Mario Sunshine, and they said, we want to make this game a little bit more accessible. So what we're going to do is simplify Mario's movesets to his very core. He's going to feel a little bit stiff to move, and he's going to feel like he's not as flexible as he has been in past games. It's more about that platforming. It's more about the design around Mario rather than Mario's moveset itself. And I think this was a good choice for this game, and the design was amazing. Like, there are so many incredible galaxies that I can reference to and say this is a perfect example of what a 3D platformer should be. Mario has always been about fun, but in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinions, Mario Galaxy is when that fun factor really started to take place. In 64 and Sunshine, those games could have the most frustrating challenges because of the camera, because of some of the movesets, because of some things that were just incredibly frustrating with those older consoles and those older hardware. Now here in the Wii generation, they decided to simplify everything to make it to where you weren't frustrated by anything. Every single thing you do is a little bit difficult, but not impossible. It doesn't feel like the game and the controls are actively working against you. It feels like all you have to do is just get a little bit better and a little bit more. And if you do a little bit more of everything and you get a little bit better at everything, you're going to find yourself having a great time. And this game really does focus in on that. The platforming aspect of this game is different than all of the others, but it is still incredible. And of course, you have yourself the spin move from the Luma that you find at the beginning of this game. The spin move is the big new thing in this game. In 64, Mario was just a guy, and he did have a couple of different power-ups that he could use. He could fly around, he had that Metal Mario suit, the Invisible Mario suit, but in those games, they really didn't do anything different. In Sunshine, you had a Flood Pack. There's always something that is able to change Mario's moveset up. In this game, like I said, they simplified his moveset and gave him that spin move, and that was the big move in this game. You were able to use that spin move to attack enemies at any angle. It is a circular spin, so that way, on these somewhat confusing platforms, on these big spherical objects that you're moving around in weird gravity shapes, this is going to be able to help you hit any enemy from any direction, and that was their whole point with designing that spin move. The Comet Observatory is another thing I would like to talk about here for a little bit. The Comet Observatory is somewhat of a hub world without being a hub world, because you're not necessarily in a location, you're just in this big floating spaceship. It's a lot different than Isle Delfino or the big castle area from Mario 64. But this has been a point of contention even to this very day. Should Mario and should 3D platformers have a hub world? Well, a lot of people will say it adds charm, it adds character, and it adds a lot to the game itself. It adds an environment, a sense of realism that you're actually in a real place rather than just selecting worlds on a map on a big 2D plane. I think the Comet Observatory does a good job of striking a little bit of a middle ground here. You have this whole place that you can run around and explore. You can really see the people living here, the Lumas living here, and Rosalina in charge of them all. But what really this game can struggle with is getting from place to place. You just want to get in and out of levels a lot quicker than the game lets you do. Sometimes I found myself wanting to get to one level from the beginning area, but then another level from the top of the ship. So I would have to go back and forth, and it would just take a little bit more time than maybe I would have liked. But that's not a huge deal at the end of the day. It's just not as fun as some people might say it is. All of that charm is great, but is it at the expense of the player's time? And of course, some people might say, oh, this is not a big deal at all, just have more time, just have less of a poor attention span. But still, sometimes design needs to be thought about from a different angle, and this game does a good job, I think, at it. But still, that common observatory can be a contentious topic. It is good for a hub world, but it's not as good of a hub world as Isle Delfino. And of course, people will say that Isle Delfino is going to be a lot bigger, so it's harder to get from levels to levels even in that. And I would agree with that still. But at the same time, that world map design just doesn't do it for me personally either. I do love getting in and out of levels as fast as possible, but I also love having a mix of a hub world with that map, and this does it pretty well, like I said, because you will go into some of those spheres, you will go into these different areas like the kitchen, and you will be able to elevate yourself up to that level, and it will show you a little bit of a map in a circle. In that circle is where you will select your galaxies, you'll go in, and then you'll have a grand time. Now, another thing about this game is the music. The music is some of the best in the series, and it really started kicking off a big theme of Mario having amazing music. Like 64 and Sunshine certainly did have their tracks here and there, but Galaxy is when Mario music started to get really, really good. It started to become one of those things where people would listen to it outside of the game. And the music also really did complement the atmosphere even more. You would have levels where you were just floating around space, and all of a sudden it's just like very quiet. And you look around and you see this atmosphere is incredible. It's not just some random place in the middle of nowhere like in 3D Land in some of those levels where you're just not even thinking about what you're doing. You're going from level to level and you're just mindlessly platforming. In Mario Galaxy, I look around and I say, these environments, they're so real. And I really love going through these areas one by one, and they're expertly designed in a linear facet. But at the same time, I can't help but wonder what's over there. What would happen if I were to go out in that area? What's over here? It is so endearing to me to see these levels in a new light. And I really do mean in a new light. This game was in fact in the 3D All-Stars package back in 2020, but on the Nintendo Switch 2, you are getting yourself 4K 60 FPS, and this game truly looks better than ever. The textures are redone, and this game is truly the epitome of greatness. I do think somewhat of a missed opportunity with the Switch 2 edition of this game particularly was the mouse functionality. It would have been really cool to use the Starbit collector icon on that screen as the mouse and to just get a little bit of a taste of that mouse functionality for someone who didn't try DragX Drive and for Metroid Prime 4 not being out yet, and that's kind of the main mouse game for this console. But still, nonetheless, I have very few complaints about this game, about this iteration of the game on the Nintendo Switch 2, and about the story that it does tell, because it tells a pretty great one, especially at the end of the game when Rosalina is talking about the Lumas being reborn, moving on to the next galaxies, becoming stars, becoming all of these different things. Then Bowser joins you at the very end. It's just very sweet. It's more of a story, it's more of a deep story than any Mario game has ever told since, and I really appreciate it for that. Mario Galaxy is amazing, but it isn't without its flaws. We talked about some of those earlier. I do think Mario Galaxy has something going for it though. It has a sequel. And if it didn't exist, Mario Galaxy 2 wouldn't exist, and that is where we segue into Mario Galaxy 2. Now, I've already talked about Mario Galaxy at length in this video and in other videos in the past, but Super Mario Galaxy 2 is where things start to get good. This game is truly my favorite Mario game of all time. 3D World probably is the most nostalgic to me, and I will always enjoy playing that game, probably over any game ever. But in terms of level design, in terms of the bombastic tracks that play in this game, the huge sense of scale, the way this game doubles down on everything Mario Galaxy did well and continues to soar, I cannot objectively say that any game in the Mario series is better than Galaxy 2. And we are finally getting this game after they ignored it for what seemed like forever. They did not put this game on any console other than the Wii, and the Wii U, of course, with the Virtual Console. But we have yet to see Galaxy 2 get remade, a HD version, or any sort of re-release of this game up until now, and that is just a disgrace in my opinion. But here we are now, finally talking about Galaxy 2. Galaxy 2 does everything Mario Galaxy 1 does, but better. Especially the music. Like, oh my goodness, even with the starting track here, I will just play a little bit of it for you. It is so amazing. that is just a taste of the music that you're going to be getting in Mario Galaxy 2. All of the tracks are just as big and bombastic and amazing as this one. They took everything good from Mario Galaxy's soundtrack and said, you know what? How about we make it even bigger, even better? We're in space, aren't we? We can do whatever the heck we want. So they made it as big and bombastic as they could. And I will say that over and over and over again until you understand, because it is truly bigger and better. One of the things that Mario Galaxy 2 does a lot different than Mario Galaxy is, of course, adding in Yoshi. Yoshi is a big part of this game's marketing. He's on the cover, he is in the second level of the game. Yoshi is a big part of this game overall, and yet I still felt like he just wasn't as useful as I would have expected. There are certainly levels in which he will use that jalapeno pepper, and to be able to run really fast, he'll have that one light up level where he can get a light up fruit and just eliminate the ground below you and you'll be able to walk across it. That's a pretty cool use of him. And then of course the big blue fruit in which he can take and then be able to swell up like a balloon and then be able to move you up into the sky like in Mario 64 with the DS version of that game, the Balloon Mario. That was something else interesting with this game, but Yoshi just wasn't as fun to use as I would have expected, and he wasn't used in hardly any of these different environments that I thought he would have been. These games have a big emphasis on Yoshi, but he's only ever used for niche things, for random gimmicky type things, never really incorporated into the game itself, never used in big 3D environments in the way I would have expected. Overall, Yoshi is really great in this game, but there were just some times that I was finding myself saying, it could have been done better here. Why did they do it like that? Another thing that could be seen as a pro or con depending on who you are, in Mario Galaxy 2 they do a lot of different 2D levels in which you are running around in a 2D environment rather than a 3D one, and they will go back and forth and have some very cool uses for it, but sometimes, especially at the beginning of the game, it just got old for me. I'm playing a 3D game, I don't care to do a 2D level here. Like, why are we doing that in a big bombastic game like Super Mario Galaxy 2 where all of a sudden we have to do a 2D platforming trick? I don't know. It just seemed to me at the very beginning of this game there were constant 2D levels that you were forced into, and then once it got towards the later half of the game, that was when they really started to give you the great 3D designs, these great atmospheres, these great levels. It was just a lot different than the first part of the game. It was very stark, because as much as I love this game, it didn't really set me off on the correct foot. Now, of course, the biggest point of contention with Galaxy 2 versus Galaxy 1 is you kind of lose out on that atmosphere. Sure, you do have some amazing levels in which you are getting lost in, you are hearing this amazing pretty music in the background and you're thinking, where am I? That is certainly a feature of Galaxy 2. But Galaxy 2 takes out a lot of that atmosphere from Galaxy 1 because there wasn't a storybook in the original and there wasn't any sort of big storyline going on. You were just Mario, Bowser got Peach, and then you go after Peach. That's pretty much all you did in this game, except there was Lubba, and instead of the Comet Observatory, you have Starship Mario. Starship Mario is not better than the Comet Observatory in my opinion, but in terms of the getting in and out of levels as fast as possible, I think it does a great job, because of course, every single time you get back from a level, it puts you on the very top of the ship, and all you have to do is run forward, and boom, you're on that world map, and then you can go and select any levels. Those levels are easy to get in and out of, and that is great. It's so much easier to go back to all these levels and replay them, and boy, does this game want you to replay the levels. You get comet medals in every single one of these levels, and if you do get one, later on in the storyline, in the levels, you will be able to go back to it and get a comet star. Now, those stars are a lot different because they have unique features. Some of them will have you timed, some of them will have a Cosmic Mario chasing you throughout the level, some of them are redoing boss battles with only one hit. They are a lot more difficult than Mario Galaxy, and I really think it is for the better. Galaxy 2 has a big difficulty curve compared to Galaxy 1. A lot of these levels are much harder and more demanding than Galaxy 1, and I many a time found myself looking at the screen with a huge smile saying, they wanted me to do what? I can't believe this. This is incredible. This design is amazing. I was playing this game with a huge smile from beginning to end. And of course, at the beginning, there were some frustrations that I had with this game. Mario Galaxy has been re-released a few times since its initial release, but Galaxy 2 has not. With Galaxy, it was much easier for them to just put it on the Switch 2 in 4K, and of course add a little bit of that storybook, a little bit more, and then give it a rest. With Galaxy 2, they kind of had to start from scratch in terms of that Wii edition, moving over to the Switch 2 in 4K. And I think because of that, they have a little bit of a problem here. There are some bugs in this game, and that is not what I normally will say about any sort of first-party Nintendo game, and I'm not even sure if I am willing to call them bugs or not, but there are just some weird things that happen. And of course, I'm playing a bunch of them now on the screen, but there are weird things where it's like, I died, and I definitely should not have died there. Like, I really should not have fallen off the map here. The thwomp should not have crushed me here. There are just so many instances in Galaxy 2 where I found myself saying, what? Why did that happen? That should not have happened the way it did. And that is just not what I am used to from any sort of Mario game, and I don't know if this happened to me in the past, but I simply did not remember any of this. And maybe some of those things are just me not playing the way the developers intended me to, but if I am having some of these troubles, falling off the map, things not working properly, me getting crushed when I shouldn't, then I'm sure other people are having that as well. And maybe it's just a result of this game being older than some of the other Mario games I'm used to, but I go back to Mario 64, and the biggest problem with that game is the camera. That's it. Like, the moveset is fine. I never clip through walls, I never have weird things happen to me in that game. It's just the camera. Sometimes things don't go the way I want them to go because the game doesn't let me. But in Galaxy 2, that's not always going to be the case. If I had to pinpoint one big problem with either of these games, it would just be that they kind of end rather quickly, especially with these boss fights. Some of them are way too fast, and of course, that's just Mario for you. They're a little bit easy, and some people had the same complaints with Donkey Kong Bonanza, but in that game, I didn't mind it as much, and I am comparing these a lot because they are made by the same developers, and it's more of a modern take on those games, and it's the same price. If you want to buy Mario Galaxy 1+2, you're spending $70, and if you want to buy Donkey Kong Bonanza, you're spending $70. So I think in the modern era in which they are charging the same amount for these games, I am right to compare them to each other. But with Donkey Kong Bonanza, it felt different because that game was all about fighting. It was all about punching and destroying things, and of course, beating bosses at the end of each little layer. And so when you did get to a boss, I didn't mind it being as fast as possible because that's kind of what Donkey Kong is. He's a huge, strong ape and no one can stand in his way. And of course, with the secret final boss, those fights are a lot more difficult than any game I have ever played in the Mario series with any sort of boss fight. That is so much more difficult than anything else, and I think those complaints about the boss fights in Donkey Kong Bonanza are just a little bit overblown. In Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, they are totally justified. These boss fights are quick. And of course, in Galaxy 2, I genuinely think they do get a little bit better, but at the same time, the final Bowser fight takes like 3 minutes, and that is just so frustrating because the score is incredible. The music is just so amazing, and I found myself wishing I could stall for more time just so I could listen and watch this huge spectacle of Bowser floating through the air, fighting me in this huge environment, and I just wanted to keep going forever and ever, and it just didn't let me because the game wasn't designed that way. In both Mario Galaxy 1 and Galaxy 2, there is Luigi, and in Galaxy 1, you are able to go to different levels, find him, and he will give you a green star. Once you 100% that game with Mario, get all 120 stars, you can go back through the entire game again as Luigi. So that game offers a lot of replayability. In Galaxy 2, they do it a little bit differently, and I'm not exactly sure why. They decided in this game that they wanted to make it to where you would go into any random level through your first playthrough, and Luigi would sit there at the beginning. You can talk to Luigi, and then become Luigi and play as him in those levels. Then, once you beat the main game, the main storyline, you beat Bowser for the first time, you can change between Luigi and Mario at any time, and 100% the game just once. Neither is a big deal to me. I don't really care how you finish the game one way or another, but I do think Galaxy 1 would offer a lot more replayability for you if you're interested in playing the game twice over, just once with Mario and once with Luigi, but I can understand how some completionists might be a little upset at that fact, knowing that in Galaxy 2 you can just play it once and be done, and play as Mario or Luigi with those differing movesets, because Luigi is a little bit slippery and he jumps a little bit higher, I believe. Now here we come to the price. Are these games worth it? Well, $40 a piece, in my opinion, is not the worst thing in the world. In a world with Silksong being $20, I understand that a lot of people are frustrated at Nintendo's marketing and pricing, and I would say that some of these games are rather expensive. Mario Kart World being $80 is just ridiculous, and I really hope that they don't continue that in the future. I really hope that they just keep it at $70 because that is industry standard, and if you want to charge $80 for these big games, you're just not going to get a lot of positive reception to that or a lot of people defending you. Now, I will probably end up buying $80 games if they are my favorite games, but a lot of people just can't do it. A lot of people don't feel the same way. Here we are now with $70 games with two old games packaged into one. a $70 Mario Galaxy 1 Plus 2 with a little bit of new content and 4K resolution for the Nintendo Switch 2. But if you're a Switch owner and you don't have a Switch 2, which you likely aren't a Switch 2 owner at this point, then maybe you just don't care about that and you only care about the new content in these games. The new content is you get a storybook in Mario Galaxy 2 that tells you Lubba's story, and then you get a little bit of extra in the original game for Mario Galaxy 1. And to be honest with you, you're not buying these games for the new content. You're simply buying these games, if you do choose to buy them, to be able to play Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 in modern hardware. And that's it. That's the only reason you would go out of your way to buy these games. Number one, if you have never played these games before, I would say they are worth it to you. If you've never tried Galaxy 1 or 2, this is absolutely worth the price. You're getting two of the best games ever made for $70, and that is a pretty good deal in my opinion. They may be old, but they're still incredible, and they're up to modern standards now. Number two, if you have played these games before, but if you haven't played them in a while, then they might be worth the package for you. Maybe you were one of those people who bought 3D All-Stars back in 2020, and you don't really care about Galaxy, but you do want to play Galaxy 2. While there is new content for Galaxy, and the upgrades for the Switch 2 edition are pretty great, and the textures are even better, I would still say you probably don't care as much about Galaxy 1 more than you would about 2. In which case, I would just say, if you want Galaxy 2, $40 ain't bad to buy Galaxy 2, and there's probably a good chance that at some point those games go on sale a little bit around the holidays, maybe not this year, but maybe next year, or maybe around next year's anniversary. Nintendo doesn't put their games on sale very often, but there are times they'll give us 20-30% off, and I could see these games definitely getting that treatment around Mario's anniversaries, around different game releases, maybe even around the Mario Galaxy movie. They'll put those games a little bit on sale. And that is when I would say jump on it if you are a little bit wary of that price point, but still, $40 for either Galaxy or Galaxy 2 isn't a huge deal in my opinion. It's just not that bad. The type of person I would say this game and these games are not worth it for is the type of person who has played both of these games very recently, has emulated these games, and has gotten those experiences. The only thing you would be getting is to be able to play those games on official Switch hardware and to be able to take it anywhere at any time, which of course is a big draw, but at the same time, if you've played them, if you know what you're getting into, $70 for both these games probably looks disgusting to you. For me, I have a channel, I want to talk about these games, and of course, even if I didn't have a channel, I would want to buy at least Galaxy 2. So I would probably go out of my way to buy the package because it is technically cheaper. $40 for both is $80 combined, so just buy the package and you're saving $10. Bada bing, bada boom. Nintendo thinks they're giving us a pretty big deal. So, is it worth it? I would say for most cases, it probably is. Two of the best games ever made now on the Switch and Switch 2 in higher resolutions and better textures. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this package myself, and both of these games are phenomenal. Despite all of the flaws that I pointed out in these games, there are still amazing pros to these games. I pointed out a lot of them earlier and in past videos and in past rankings before. I try not to go too deep into these games because of course I have talked about them in the past, but I just really wanted to come on here and review them because they are brand new, and Mario is getting a little bit of a resurgence in terms of the Galaxy sphere, so I wanted to get this up here on the channel for you if you were on the edge one way or another. Hopefully this helped you clear up in your mind what these games are, and if you were planning on getting them. Let me know if you are changing your mind on that, or if you think I am totally ridiculous in my opinion on these games. Make sure you like this video and subscribe if you enjoyed. Click that notification bell to know exactly when my videos release, and consider joining my membership program to join the channel and just give a couple extra bucks a month to support me as a content creator and get early access to all my videos. Make sure you click on the left side of your screen to see my video initially covering Mario Galaxy 1 and 2's release, and then click on the right side of your screen to see my rankings video of all 3D Mario games. Thank you very much for making it to the end of the video. I hope you have yourself a phenomenal day. This has been Ray's Nintendo Talk. I have been Ray, and I will see you all in the next video.